This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios here on this Thursday, June 18th. Joined now by Jake Query. Jake, how you doing, man?
You know, there are like probably fewer than 5 things in which I normally would wake up before noon. One of them would be this radio show. The other would be for Reynolds Family Dentistry if I had to work at Sellers.
You're not the best in the business because you don't promote the sponsors. We appreciate that.
How you been, man? What you been up to? What's going on with you?
Well, pretty much. If I have a dentist appointment in the next 6 months, that would be about the only thing on the calendar for me, truth be told. But, you know, it's an interesting time because for those that don't know, which I would assume would be most, I did a radio show in Indianapolis for close to a decade, and then, you know, it's funny, I was part of a national layoff in January, and so I was kind of ahead of the trend. Like, I was on the beach before it was trendy to be on the beach. Now all of a sudden, everybody's there to me, and I'm like, well, hell, this is all right. Like, you know, you tell people now, you know, you're between jobs, and everybody's just naturally like, well, it's the virus. Yeah, it's the virus. Sure, yeah, that's what it is, right? So, and I mean, that's not to make light of what's going on. But so between that and then my other job, when that happened, I thought to myself, well, I mean, it's okay because I've got auto racing play-by-play that I do for IndyCar, and I do all the IndyCar events and everything at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And then that, of course, goes on hold. So, you know, life's been interesting, no doubt about it. A lot of time to sit back, and if you need me to come mow the lawn or something, you just let me know. I've got all the time in the world.
Well, Todd would always use a golf partner. He's always on the golf course.
That's one thing he doesn't. That's one thing he doesn't do. He is not a golfer.
Well, that's because he's been spending his time too productively out taking people to lunch here of late, which is a phenomenal thing, Jake. That just saw some of those posts, and I see all your posts. But what a great idea, and just a tremendous thing to do. And it's got to be extremely rewarding for you. I mean, that's got to be an incredible thing, empowering to be able to do that.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but for those that don't know, when I got laid off, and I was, quite frankly, I mean, kidding aside, guys, like I was incredulous at the response when I was laid off from my job, along with Derek Schultz. We did a show for iHeartRadio here in Indianapolis, and you understand and you know when you work in radio that that's always a possibility. So all of a sudden one day I get a call, you know, come into the office, and so we're laid off, and you know, I figured it would be a big deal for like 12 hours. And then people I grew up with would say, like, hey, so what are you going to do next? And that question from people of, like, what's next for you? What's next on the horizon? I mean, it's very flattering, especially when you're thinking to yourself, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I have no other skill set. I mean, I've only talked sports for 20 years. I have no idea of anything else I know how to do. So, you know, I was downtown one day, and I just kind of had this epiphany of, like, you know what? I've worked with Wheeler Mission in the past. I've done things to help out Wheeler Mission, you know, just in terms of the drumstick dash and things like that. And I just feel like there's this stigma about homelessness, that people see someone that's homeless or they see someone on the corner and they think, well, that person's, they're on drugs or they're crazy, or they put themselves in that position. So I called and just said, you know what? Why don't I just do, since there seems to be a spotlight or an interest, probably for a fleeting moment, of what my next move's going to be, why not parlay that into an awareness? And so I called him and said, how about if I just come down for a month and have lunch with a different person every day? And here's the problem, guys. So I throw that out there, and then I think to myself, wait a minute, I just committed to buying 60 lunches, and I'm unemployed. Like, how am I going to do this? So fortunately, Hotbox Pizza, which is based here in Indianapolis, they saw a post about it and immediately called me and said, hey, we'll take care of all of it. So every morning when I get up, I call down to Hotbox, I place my order. they set me up with a line of credit, and I go down and I pick up the pizza, and I go to Wheeler Mission, and I go to one of 3 different places. There's a Wheeler Mission in downtown Indianapolis. There's the Wheeler Mission Men's Residence Center on Delaware. There's the Wheeler Mission, kind of the initial place where guys can go in on just off of Market, and then there's a women and children's shelter on East Michigan. So they kind of rotate me around, and they set me up with a different person each day. And we just sit and eat pizza, and I listen to their story because no one when they're 10, 15, 20, 25 years old, no one says, when I'm 40, I think what I really want is to live in a homeless shelter. No one sets that out for themselves. So there are circumstances, some self-inflicted, some not, some circumstantial. And so I just have sat down for an hour or so each day and listened to the stories, and then to the best of my ability, shared what those stories are to try to find out and just try to break down that stigma so that people don't look at it and say, look, I need to disregard that person. Because homelessness is not about statistics. It's about individual people. It's about faces. And truth be told, Jim, in all honesty, there are a lot of things that went into this, I guess, realization for me of like, hey, let me do this. But I'll tell you one thing that was actually impactful to me, and it was probably 2 years ago, maybe 3. I get a phone call one day or a text or something from Todd Leary. And he's like, hey, this basketball team that I'm working with, we go down, we make a chili breakfast, and then we take it all and we feed the homeless. And he said, do you want to partake in it? And I said, there's no way on God's green earth I'm getting up that early to make chili, but I'll help you distribute it if it's after like 11 o'clock. So I met Todd downtown, and we're walking around, and I saw, and I'm talking dozens, of homeless men and women down in the American Legion Mall, and Todd's walking up to offer them chili and cornbread. And I'm thinking to myself, there are a lot of people in Indianapolis that know who Todd Leary is, and they know that he played at Lawrence North, or they know that he played at Indiana. And none of these men and women care who it is in terms of the accomplishments of the person giving them chili. They're only worried about the fact this person's bringing them food. And that resonated with me. And so I think it showed and it exhibited to me that it's not about what you do when people are watching. It's about what you do when people aren't watching, and it's about what you do when people are watching for you to come down. And so I just decided to roll with that, and I've enjoyed it. I've had a great time with it. It's been enlightening to me, and it has, in fact, been rewarding, to put it that way. But it's not about me. It's not about the reward I get out of it. But there is a feeling of fulfillment I get in the moments that I share with these people while we eat pizza.
Well, two things to add to that people don't know about Jake Query, or some people do, or actually a lot more now than before. But it's not. It appear right now that you're doing the 30 lunches thing because of the pandemic, and people who do follow you pretty closely know you had all of this scheduled way before the pandemic had taken place. So it just happens to be something for us to look forward to and watch during this time. And it's not like you're doing it for the publicity. You didn't, I know you personally. I know you didn't call Hotbox. I know people reached out to you. You would have paid for those lunches by yourself. And I believe that with my whole heart. Secondly, is when you came down with us, you were the one I specifically remember you saying, because I wanted to there were reporters that were coming down and some different people that I had talked to about what we were doing. And I did it for the same reasons you did it, in that it was kind of a way to bring awareness to the problem one of the problems in downtown Indianapolis. I didn't need my name to be associated with it. And the one thing I remember about you is you said, just don't associate my name with it at all. Only because you wanted it to be about what it was supposed to be about. And that, I'm not trying to turn this into a Jake Query love fest, but I think a lot of people are learning a lot more about what a good person you are and how great you are for the city of Indianapolis. Why you never ran for mayor, I have no idea, because you would have won based on your North Central votes alone.
Well, I will say this, Todd. I appreciate it. And I'm well aware of the fact that you don't need to do a Jake Query Love Fest because I do plenty of that on my own. But having said that, I agree with what you're saying. I mean, you are right. I had originally come up with this idea in February, and then all of a sudden it was like, man, I mean, the city closed down, right? So I couldn't do it there for a couple of months. And then I contacted Steve Kerr back and said, okay, let's just do it as soon as things do open up. And I was a little bit uncomfortable when a television station or a couple people reached out to me and said, hey, can we do a feature on this? For the reason that that's not why you do it. You don't want people to think that you're doing something for your own self-promotion. But I was a little bit like at this juxtaposition in my mind because I thought, well, if the reason I'm doing this is to raise awareness, then I need to follow through on letting people know what I'm doing for that awareness. So, it's kind of a double-edged sword there, but I appreciate, you guys and other people that have reached out to me, not because of me, but because of these 30 men and women that I'm meeting with and their stories. And, the one thing I've learned through most of them is almost all of them had some sort of a trauma as a young person. I don't know yet that I take that back. I've done 24 of them now, and I think 2 of the 24 grew up in a true nuclear household where they have mom and dad in the house and had a stable upbringing. I mean, it is so incredibly apparent to me, and I'm not a psychologist, but what takes place in your life and the stability that takes place in your life in the first, let's say, 10 to 15 years is so incredibly important to who you are. And that's not to say you can't overcome those things. But I'm well aware of the fact that I was raised into a situation that I didn't pick it, but I won the lottery. I had a great childhood. I had a great upbringing. I had great morals and principles. And I'm very fortunate for that. And I've always been aware that I'm fortunate for that. But, not everybody has been. So I guess at some point, it was just, I guess I'll take the blessings that were bestowed upon me and try to help that for other people. So that's kind of where I am at this point.
I know that you talked about maybe doing a podcast with your old partner as well. Any more to that happening?
So we are, not to bore people with contractual details, but we're technically still under a non-compete for another month. And a lot of people are like, how can they lay you off? Look, iHeart gave me a great opportunity. They were a great company to work for. I love the people here in Indianapolis that I work for. I don't know ill will at all because it's business. You know that that's business. But there was, as there usually is in a radio or television contract, a non-compete that goes into effect upon termination of the contract. It does come with compensation. So you can't sit there and say, well, that's ridiculous. They're holding me back. Look, I'm still getting paid. So I'm under a non-compete for another month. We've been very fortunate that the 24 hours that I assumed of interest about myself and Derek Schultz has extended into, a couple of months here. So we still have some opportunities. Whether or not those come to fruition, I don't think it's going to be on a radio station. But as you guys obviously know, podcasting, different avenues are out there. There's not a lot of real estate, especially now because you look at, I wish we all could get dentistry out of Sellersburg that are great companies that are coming on board. But the reality is that sports bars and the different gambling apps and things like that, a lot of people now are pinching their pennies. So the advertising dollar is difficult to come by. So I don't know how that changes the complexity or the possibilities for us. We've been fortunate that people have reached out to us. We have nothing concrete. We've had conversations, but maybe in the next couple of weeks or so, we'll have something that we're able to then officially on paper announce. But as of right now, my focus, to be honest with you, is kind of twofold. Number one, patting myself on the back for getting up before 10 and being a productive human being for a day. And carrying out, another week's worth of lunches. And maybe I'll go beyond that. I don't know, because I've enjoyed it.
Well, man, we appreciate you getting up today to take time to join us. But also, again, I know it's not why you do it, but you should be commended for for doing those lunches. It's a cool way to, and even though you had this planned way before this break that we're all under, perfect timing in that regard, because it is certainly, I think it's given you a much better platform to give for more people to see this and to maybe inspire other people to do something nice for somebody. I think it's just a great timing, but most importantly, it's just a great thing.
Well, I appreciate it. Let me say this. I do want to throw this in. And if you guys are up against it, just let me know, because I have a propensity to talk longer than I'm supposed to. But
you're good.
You know, I remember, and look, not to sit here and belabor the point, but I think most people who listen to your guys' show, I mean, Todd, we know we know everything that Todd Leary's been through, for example. And I knew Todd very peripherally. Todd, we knew each other in college. I mean, we were in the same circle of friends, but it was disingenuous to say we were best buddies. And I ran into you a couple of years ago, I believe on the eve of when things kind of went awry for you. And I ran into you again once you were putting the pieces back together. And you were the same guy the night before that as you were the day that I saw you, when you were putting things back together. And for me, I judge people on how they are to me. And I judge people on, judge is the wrong word, but I measure people, whatever, on my experiences with them. And in looking back and thinking about it, I realize now that I saw someone, with all due respect, Todd, probably at their lowest. And when you see someone at their lowest, and they're the same person to you as when they were at their highest, that's the true measure of someone. And I think people, when they go out and about and they go downtown for lunch or they're on their work break and they see somebody that needs a hand, that person's at their lowest, and yet they still have it within them, a human strength to ask for help. And that needs to be addressed as opposed to dismissed, because that's the true measure of who someone is. And you were no different. I mean, in those two circumstances, when I was downtown with you distributing chili, I mean, I was still a little upset that Jamal Meeks didn't pass to you out of the corner. And I wasn't focused on the 3 threes against Duke and those things. I was simply seeing somebody who had known their low and tried to turn it into someone else's high. And to me, that's what life is all about.
Well, you're the best, buddy. I mean, we talk about it all the time and the things that you do, and the thing about you, I telling you now, I learned this from you, and that when you do things without the cameras on and without people watching, it means a lot more. And quite honestly, it's kind of selfish because it makes me feel better to do it that way. So it's kind of my own selfishness with that, but. You inspire a lot of people, Jake, and you are making Indianapolis a better place in a time when obviously it needs it. So we thank you so much for coming on. And I wanted you to be able to talk about the 30 lunches and all of that, but it's just, you're just a person that we look forward to seeing what the next chapter for you is going to be.
I appreciate it. My Twitter account, selfishly speaking, is my name, which is Jake Query, Jakequery. I say that not for people to go to there, except for with each story that I do, I include a link where people can make a donation to Wheeler Mission, which is the most important thing for me. And for any, if you want to call it this, for any assist, Todd, that I might have made to the city of Indianapolis, I would gladly take one of them and trade it for Jamal Meeks to just have had one assist. I still think about it. And then it just the air ball and Bailey's jumping on the bench, and I'm thinking, the guy had a hot hand. He was right on the other side of the field. Just reversed the ball.
I thought I lost. Yeah, it's great. Jake, I cannot thank you again so much for joining us. You definitely brightened the day in a lot of different ways, man. We look forward to doing it again sometime.
Anytime, guys. Anytime. I mean, now I can get to go to bed, so I'll sleep for a couple hours.
Hey, go rest up. Go rest up for lunch. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.